2 days have passed since Dudley disappeared, much to the relief of Bishop Harry Brome. And now it's early evening on Christmas Eve.
Here's the list of your calls, Bishop, ending at Mrs. Hamilton's. Oh, and there's a taxi waiting for you outside.
Thank you, Miss Cassaway. If you're through typing my sermon before I'm back, just leave the copies on my desk.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to keep you so late on Christmas Eve.
Oh, it's all right, sir. Bishop Brome?
Yes?
There's still no word from Mr. Dudley?
Miss Cassaway, I discharged Mr. Dudley. There's no reason at all to hear from him.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you don't mind, please tell Mrs. Brome that the taxi is waiting.
Julia! Hiya, Julia!
Sylvester! Well, what are you doing here?
Well, when the call came in for a cab, I sure hightailed it over here. I was hoping there'd be another skating party. Hey, where's Dudley?
I don't know.
Look, you got a preacher with you.
Yes, this is...
Don't tell me. A wedding, you and Dudley.
Sylvester, this is my husband, Bishop Brome.
Oh.
Mind, we'd like to go to North Maple Street. By taxicab, Sylvester, not ice skates.
Good evening, Miss Cassaway.
Oh, Mr. Dudley.
Did I startle you?
Oh, yes. I didn't hear you come in. But where have you been?
Oh, here and there, Miss Cassaway.
Why, we've been so worried about you and poor Mrs. Brome. She's been popping in and out of here all day. Have I seen you? Have I heard from you?
Where is she?
She and the bishop are making Christmas calls.
Oh, they'll be home?
Oh, yes, sir. After Mrs. Hamilton's, then they go to St. Timothy's for the midnight service.
You should be home too, Miss Cassaway. I'll type that sermon for you.
Oh, no, don't. The bishop told me.
It's Christmas Eve. You should be home with your family.
Well, if you really... Thank you, Mr. Dudley.
Merry Christmas, Mildred.
Merry Christmas, Dudley.
Now, let's get a load of this. Henry's Christmas sermon. A new cathedral, Mrs. Hamilton's magnificent gesture, money, pledges needed. Sorry, Henry, but that's no sermon for Christmas. Suppose you tell them the story of an empty stocking. Once upon a midnight clear, there was a child's cry. A blazing star hung over a stable, and wise men came with birthday gifts. We have forgotten many things during the centuries, but not that night.
Whom did you say is calling, sir?
Oh, I'm Dudley Stevens, Bishop Brome's new assistant. Would you mind telling Mrs. Hamilton I'm here?
Yes, sir. Please wait in the music room.
Oh, a harp. Oh, good evening, Mrs. Hamilton. This is a beautiful harp you have.
My butler said you're Bishop Brome's assistant.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Hamilton. The bishop will be along a little later.
That music you're playing.
I thought you'd recognize it.
There's no one living who knows that composition except me.
What a shame that Alan Cartwright died, that only you and I would know his music.
Alan Cartwright died nearly 40 years ago. You couldn't have known him.
I'm much older than you think. Mrs. Hamilton, tell me about him, about Alan Cartwright.
What is there to tell? He was the only man I ever loved, but I was afraid of poverty, so I sent him away and I never saw him again. Why am I telling you this?
And so you married the rich George Hamilton.
I made George happy, I think, and since he died, I've spent a fortune honoring his memory in empty monuments.
Oh, they're no more empty than your own life, Mrs. Hamilton. Since you sent the man you loved away, you haven't allowed yourself to love anyone else. You've withdrawn into a shell, a cold and, alas, selfish woman.
But what can I do?
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. Break that shell. Now think of what you could do for others, and you'll no longer have time to think of yourself. Forgive yourself, Mrs. Hamilton, as Alan Cartwright forgave you long ago.
Do you really think he did?
I know he did.
How did you know about Alan Cartwright?
It doesn't matter. Oh, Mrs. Hamilton, they're at the front door. Now, Henry and Julia.
I can't see them now. I can't.
Yes, you'll see them. You'll go to the hall and you'll greet them in your usual warm-hearted manner.
You'll come with me and you'll stay, won't you, Dudley?
No, I'm afraid I can't. I have a great deal of work to do. Now, don't keep them waiting.
How do you do, Mrs. Hamilton?
Julia, how nice of you to come see me. And Henry, Merry Christmas. Henry? I said Merry Christmas.
Oh, yes. Merry Christmas, Mrs. Hamilton.
Oh, and no more of this Mrs. Hamilton business. My name is Agnes. And now we can all... Oh, he's gone. He's gone already.
Gone? Who?
Dudley.
He was here?
I might have known it.
But where did he go?
Oh, that poor man. He said he had so much work to do. Really, Henry, you must make him take some rest.
I've been trying to make him do just that.
Oh, I can't thank you enough for sending him to me. Meeting Dudley, I know it sounds ridiculous, but meeting him has been the greatest spiritual experience of my life. How did you ever find him, Henry?
More or less of an accident, I suppose.
Or more or less of a miracle.
Oh, it was. Talking with this wonderful, understanding man has... Henry, I've suddenly changed my mind about the cathedral.
You have?
Yes, I'm going to give my money to those who need it, to the poor, the homeless, the unappreciated. And I want you to direct the spending of it.
Now you see what Dudley's done, Henry.
Yes, I see.
And you understand.
Mrs. Hamilton, Julia, forgive me, but I have to leave. There's someone I must see immediately.
Henry?
Henry, my dear fellow, sit down.
Professor Wutherick, I just had to see you.
I'm delighted. Here, Henry, here, a glass of sherry.
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, but I insist. Henry, you see this bottle? Now watch. I fill 2 glasses. Behold, the bottle is still half full. And what's more, the sherry itself, it stimulates, it warms, it inspires. But no matter how much you drink, it never inebriates, and the contents never diminish. Always half full.
Dudley's been here?
Yes, this Dudley fellow is not like the rest of us.
He says he's an angel.
An angel? From heaven?
That I'm not so sure about.
An angel? It's too bad. He's such a nice fellow.
Oh, he's brought nothing but disaster to me.
Well, that's absurd. He and Julia were here the other day. She seemed happier than she'd been in years.
He's made her despise me.
Are you sure?
That's why I've come to see you. Do you think it's all my own fault, Professor? You don't have to answer. I asked for this, in more ways than one. I suppose that Dudley came to me just to confirm that I had already lost Julia's love.
Well, then, why don't you fight for her?
Fight? How can I fight against...
But you have a tremendous advantage over him.
Advantage? Over an angel?
Precisely. He is an angel. Julia's a creature of earth. She's a woman, Henry, and you're a man.
Yes, I am.
If I were you, I'd get myself home and...
Home? That's where he'll be, waiting for Julia. Excuse me. Happy Christmas.
Henry, is that you, dear?
Hello, Julia.
Dudley?
I came to say goodbye. I have to be moving along. My superior officers are sending me elsewhere.
Will we ever see you again?
Julia, Dudley, Julia, go upstairs, dear, and check on Debbie, won't you? As for you, Dudley, I have never before had to fight an angel, but I suggest you take off your coat and put up your dukes.
Now, why do you want to fight me, Henry?
Because you're a thief, trying to steal the love that belongs to me.
Henry, do you realize that as an angel, I could quite possibly destroy you with a bolt of lightning?
I don't care. Julia means more to me than my life. I'm not going to lose her.
Ah, then I have news for you. I'm going.
I'll accept that as a fact when I see it happen.
No, you won't, because when I'm gone, you will never know that an angel visited this house.
And Julia, what about her?
There will be no memory with her either, or with Debbie, or the professor, or anyone else.
Well, I don't trust you.
You may, Henry, because your prayer's been answered.
That's not true. I prayed for a cathedral.
No, Henry. You prayed for guidance, and that's been given to you. Now, go upstairs. Take her in your arms, Henry, and kiss her for me, you lucky Henry.
Julia.
Quiet, darling. You'll wake Debbie up.
Are you all right?
Why, yes, of course I am. Henry, did you get that for Debbie?
Get what for Debbie?
That little angel there on her bed.
Why, no.
I can't imagine where it came from. Henry? Henry, what is it?
I don't know. I have the most inexplicable feeling of happiness.
Why, so do I.
Oh, Julia. I love you, Julia.
I love you, Henry. Listen, the bell's from St. Timothy's.
It's almost midnight.
You'll have to hurry.
Oh, my sermon. It's all about the cathedral. It will never do now.
Don't worry, dear. You'll think of something. Something even better. Merry Christmas, Henry.
Merry Christmas, darling. Tonight, I want to tell you the story of an empty stocking. Once upon a midnight clear, there was a child's cry. A blazing star hung over a stable, and wise men came with birthday gifts. We have forgotten many things through the centuries, but not that night. We celebrate it with stars on Christmas trees, with the sound of bells, and with gifts, but especially with gifts. You give me a book. I give you a tie. Aunt Martha has always wanted an orange squeezer. Uncle Harry could do with a new pipe. Oh, we forget nobody. Adult or child, all the stockings are filled. All that is, except one. And we have even forgotten to hang it up. The stocking for the child born in a manger. It is his birthday we're celebrating. Don't let us ever forget that. Let us ask ourselves what he would wish for most, and then let each put in his share. Loving kindness, warm hearts, and a stretched out hand of tolerance. All the shining gifts to make a peace on earth.
This radio production of The Bishop's Wife was produced and directed by Carol Catherine, who also did the audio editing. Script editing was done by Pam Walker and Steve Ralph. The part of Bishop Harry Brome was played by Steve Ralph. The part of Julia Brome was played by Carol Catherine. The parts of Dudley and Professor Wutheridge were played by Patrick Van Horn. The parts of Debbie Brome and Matilda were played by Pam Walker. The part of Miss Cassaway was played by Kim Fletcher. The part of Mrs. Hamilton was played by Shar Wiltricus. The part of Stevens was played by Todd Overhuel. The part of Sylvester was played by Zach Puplis. I'm Jeff Cassidy. This has been a presentation of the Collywobbles Theater Company.